So the New York Jets are 7-4. You just saw Mike effing White go up against the Chicago Bears defense, and well, he dominated. He dominated. The problem is this, man. As an organization, as a fan base, I am just appalled as to how much love we're getting from media outlets, other football players like Richard Sherman talking about the great game that Mike White had, and ourselves, we find every reason to belittle the fact that our third string QB came into a game pouring rain without RB2 or RB3 with a patch up offensive line and performed as if he was a grizzly veteran back there, slinging the ball all over the field, getting the players involved, putting up 300 plus passing yards, 3 touchdowns at 73% completion percentage clip. And yet, doesn't count because it was only against the Bears. Well, at the end of the day, I am so glad that the NFL does not take our arguments and disagreements into consideration when dictating whether or not a team wins or whether a win counts or doesn't count. So, with that said, New York Jets are 7-4. The Patriots just lost last night to the Buffalo Bills. They're 6-6. We are in complete control of holding on to that final wild card spot, or potentially finding ourselves in the running to make a move towards the AFC East title. It's a great day to be a Jets fan. Let's talk about it.
I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce, man. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you won a loss? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance, man. I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce, man. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you won a loss? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance, man.
Congratulations, brother.
And here we. So in a nutshell, Mike White just had a game, and regardless of what the majority of the individuals think, the haters, the non-believers, whatever you want to call them, it was a great game. One that showed a quarterback with poise, confidence, a level of arm strength that we had, I guess, not seen before last year when he did this against the Cincinnati Bengals. A lot of it was pretty much dink and dunks, you know what I'm saying? A lot of yak yards came from that game. He took what the defense gave him in essence, and he dominated. But this Hall of Fame quarterback showed us he can go ahead and throw the ball and sling it all over the field. Yes, I know. He had a couple of plays where it should have been an interception. But I promise you, if you look at every quarterback that threw footballs over that same weekend, you'll find a couple of plays that were a turnover-worthy play. I digress. The New York Jets right now are in this rare situation where we can start talking about playoff appearances in December. It's December 1st, and we're talking about playoffs when it comes to the New York Jets. Not mock drafts, not who the number one quarterback is or the number one offensive lineman prospect is, nothing like that. Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs. So, with that said, we're going up against the Minnesota Vikings this week, and the Vikings are 9-2. I would tell you that before watching the Vikings play the likes of the Eagles and play the likes of the Cowboys, I would have thought this might be an impossible task. I would have also told you before us escalating Mike White into the fold that it would be a low-scoring game. But now I'm sitting here in front of you telling you I think the New York Jets have the defense to match up well against the Minnesota Vikings offense. I also believe that our offense can eat up that 31st ranked passing defense with Mike White at the helm. It's a perfect storm to see what this team can really do this coming weekend. Now, I'm kind of curious because a great deal of individuals have stated, well, it was just the Bears, right? Doesn't really matter. Let's see what Mike White does against the Vikings. What if I told you the Vikings have statistically a worse pass defense than the Bears? I think what's going to happen is this. I think Mike White's going to have a pretty good game this weekend. I think once he has a pretty good game, we're going to move that goalpost a little bit further. I think at that point, it's going to be, well, Mike White did it against the 31st ranked passing defense. He was supposed to do that. Blah, 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 blah. I do believe the goalposts are going to keep getting pushed back until we're probably in the playoffs. And Mike White's going to continue to find individuals, little pockets of individuals who would rather root for the return of Zach Wilson vice the success of the actual team. And that's fine. You know what I'm saying? I will say this. I discovered a very, very interesting and disturbing stat line today. Zach Wilson, and I am one of the biggest Zach Wilson supporters coming into the season. I had the kid getting 4,000 plus passing yards, comeback player of the year type of stuff, like most improved player of the year type of stuff. Like I really had Zach Wilson going all out. An interesting stat came across my table today, and I thought it was kind of weird or odd. Zach Wilson has the lowest EPA pass. No, I'm sorry, the lowest negative EPA per pass in the NFL since 2012 of any quarterback drafted. That's 41 quarterbacks. Zach Wilson has the worst negative EPA. I know we're hoping and believing that Zach Wilson's potentially going to have this miraculous turnaround, and we could all just be like, man, thank God it took him a little while to figure it out, but we've got our guy. I do believe that Zach Wilson has an elite level of arm talent, and it's probably the best arm talent we've ever seen in the NFL. And I'm sorry, on the New York Jets. Now, again, arm talent, not overall quarterback play. Arm talent is pretty much his ability to make specific throws. I mean, mentally, mechanically speaking, like his footwork, all that is just horrendous. But in terms of pure arm talent, I say Zach Wilson is probably the most gifted thrower of the football the New York Jets have ever had. But we would be hoping and praying for a statistic anomaly, something historically never done before. For a quarterback to be this bad, to become a franchise guy, doesn't happen in the NFL. And I think at this point, if Zach Wilson could just become a average game manager, we'd have to look at that and see it as a win. In essence, we're asking for Zach Wilson to become Mike White. You heard it here. I think Mike White is potentially an elite game manager. I don't like to use the term franchise quarterback all willy-nilly, and I know some of you are going to say, "Oh, why? Because he was a fifth-round pick. He doesn't have the draft pick pedigree." And to an extent, I am that individual that looks at it statistically speaking, and the stats don't lie. Like the majority of franchise quarterbacks are early draft picks, usually second round and in. You have your anomalies, but they're the exception to the rule, not the rule. Like there's a lot to say about the pedigree of a draft pick, and it does matter, especially at the most important position in the sport. But that's not to say that you can't find some studs, like Mike White could be that guy. I want to see a few more games before I deem him the franchise quarterback and savior for the New York Jets. But right now, he is the best quarterback on this New York Jets roster. He gives the Jets the best chance to win games. Joe Flacco would probably be second on my rankings right now. Zach Wilson looks as if he has regressed back to middle school quarterback play. Missing wide open screen passes, by a huge margin is very, very concerning. I didn't want to get into this video today and talk about Zach Wilson versus Mike White. I wanted to go ahead and bring value as an organization, as fans of this team. Mike White is our quarterback right now. And rather than root for his failure, I feel like we should be rooting for his success, because ultimately the Jets are at the cusp of doing something very few of us believe possible. There's going to be the onesies and twosies who believe the Jets could win the Super Bowl this year. But the reality is, the majority of us, to include the most optimistic of Jets fans, we had this team winning 8 and 9 games and gambling and betting on the Zach Wilson taking the next step aspect as to a successful season. About 5 games ago, it became evident that this New York Jets team is prepared to make a playoff push, which changes the whole dynamic, changes the whole game. Now we got to look at it like, wow, playoff push. It's been a minute. Right now, we currently have the longest active streak of NFL teams that haven't been to the playoffs. We have a chance to break that streak this year. And that is something we have to get behind. So with that said, the New York Jets beat the Minnesota Vikings this week and beat the Buffalo Bills, and we see a dramatic increase in our ability to go ahead and make the playoffs. I think it's like a 90% bump that we could make the playoffs if we beat these next 2 teams. Starting with the Vikings. Why do I feel confident about this matchup? Okay, so now, with the Vikings, one of the things that I find a good matchup for us is their interior offensive line versus our interior defensive line. Now, we saw against the Cowboys how much they struggled, but in essence, what happened was they were getting to Kirk Cousins at a cyclic rate. They were able to go ahead and create pressure, keep him from getting into a rhythm, and therefore they eliminated the ability to use Justin Jefferson, Hawkinson, even Dalvin Cook. They literally, I think, scored 3 points that game. And the Cowboys formula and the Eagles formula, I think, best suits what needs to be done for these guys to catch an L. And we have the personnel to do exactly that. This week is not about, freaking Mike White versus the Vikings. It's not about that. The actual true test this week is the New York Jets defense versus that Minnesota Vikings offense. It's going to be a true test of what this team can do when you've got a healthy quarterback, healthy wide receivers, healthy running back, healthy tight end. We're going to see exactly what our defense is able to do against a team right now that's a top 5 offense in the NFL. If our team can go ahead and keep that offense in check, and our offense can move the ball on the 31st ranked defense, which I believe will be possible, we've got the makings of a legitimate shot at a playoff run. But not only that, I think the makings of making that Week 18 game against the Miami Dolphins the game to decide the AFC East champions. Now, I sit here in front of you telling you that I do believe that the Bills are going to take a step backwards, primarily because Josh Allen has not looked like himself. Yes, they beat the Patriots last night. That's not really something to be excited about. The Patriots have not beaten any team with a 500 or above record, with the exception of one team. That would be us, the New York Jets. They beat us twice. In essence, based off of what should have happened, these guys should be 4-8 right now. Instead, they're 6-6, and that's fine. That's a failure on our part. It's a failure on our part. It's a failure on our part. You know what I'm saying? The team didn't make it happen, so it is what it is. But in essence, they can't beat good teams. They haven't beaten good teams. In fact, Bill Belichick has struggled to beat good teams without Tom Brady his entire career. So it proves that they don't belong in the conversation of one of the top teams in the league, i.e., they shouldn't be in the playoffs. So where they're at right now at 6-6, the bottom of the cellar of the AFC East, is exactly where they belong. And right now, we need to create more separation between us and them. With that said, I do believe the Bills are going to slip up. Josh Allen has not looked like Josh Allen. In fact, against the Patriots, they dropped 2 interceptions. So this game could have had a different outcome if Josh Allen started to play like Josh Allen has been since he played the New York Jets. I really believe we broke Josh Allen. But I think that better teams than the Patriots are going to give those guys fits. And I think that's going to allow us to catch up and at the end of the season, potentially facing off against the Miami Dolphins for the AFC East title. However, if I had to pick today, I do believe the Miami Dolphins will be the AFC East champions. I do believe the Jets will battle it out for second place. If we hold the tiebreaker by beating the Bills again next week, then we will take second place. The Bills will be in third place. We all make the playoffs. And then from there, anything can happen. So, how do we go ahead and get past the Vikings? Well, like I said before, defense has to come to play. That front four, the defensive line, is going to be key in disrupting Kirk Cousins. Now, I think Coach Saleh said it best when he talked about how do you take or eliminate a $30 million wide receiver. And I know Justin Jefferson hasn't gotten that kind of money yet, but he will be. He is arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. And with catches like this.
On 4th and 18, he's given time. He wants Jefferson, climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness! Justin Jefferson pulled it in. The catch of his life keeps the Vikings' hopes alive. There's no way. We had a catch earlier this game.
The new OBJ catch, right? This is now the new standard of what an elite catch looks like. Justin Jefferson is the full package. So I do believe the key is going to be the defensive line getting to Kirk Cousins, disrupting their rhythm, disrupting their timing, and allowing our guys, you know what I'm saying, to only have to cover for a short period of time. If the defense does that, and our offense plays even half as good as they did against the Bears, because I do believe the Minnesota Vikings defense has holes everywhere, the New York Jets should come out with a win. It's not even something that has to be an elaborate game plan. It's just a matter of front four, do your job. Quinnen Williams should eat this game. That interior offensive line of the Vikings is sus at best. I think Quinnen has his first multi-sack game of the season against this Vikings. And I'm not saying a couple. He's had a couple of games where he had a couple of sacks. I'm saying multi-sack, 3 or more sacks this game against the Vikings. And I think that's going to be what ultimately decides this final score. Now, I would spend some time going over freaking the X's and O's and why I think freaking we match up well against this and that. But in all actuality, this video's already gotten a little long. And let's just get right to the point. The New York Jets are going to beat the Minnesota Vikings 30-17. And I say that because I do believe Hawkinson's going to be a bit of an issue, a bit of a problem. But at the end of the day, this defense, I believe, is legit. I believe is very real. And if we take the approach of getting to the quarterback and eliminating his ability to get into rhythm, the way we did with Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, I think that's going to allow us the best ability to go ahead and beat this team. And with that said, the New York Jets would move into second place in the AFC East division. And that's only because I think this weekend the 49ers might beat the Miami Dolphins. Now, granted, if I'm incorrect and I'm wrong, we're still at third place with an opportunity next week, moving to second when we play the Bills. So, first things first, beat the Vikings. We've got the opportunity, we've got the talent, we've got the horses, we've got the depth. The New York Jets, on paper, matches up very, very well against this Vikings team. Offensively and defensively, we match up very, very well. So, let's do what we got to do. Let's do what we're supposed to do. Get the dub. And then we'll see the Bills next week. Man, great day of football on Sunday. Jets at 1, Dolphins at 4. Could be a telling day for New York Jets fans. But nonetheless, I'm excited. You should be excited. It's December, and we're talking about playoffs when it comes to the New York Jets. Man, what a time to be alive. Well, that's it for me. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. Again, once I hit 1,000 subscribers on this channel, I will be doing a massive, only YouTube 1,000 subscribers and below giveaway, where 3 lucky winners is going to have the opportunity to select from Elijah Vera Tucker autographed jersey, a Sack Exchange autographed mini helmet, and a Darrell Revis autographed mini helmet. All certified memorabilia sent to you to say thank you for allowing me to hit and reach that 1,000 mark. But without further ado, as always, go Jets. Man, it's December. We're talking playoffs.
With the 171st pick in the 2018 NFL Draft,
the Dallas Cowboys select Mike White, QB, Western Kentucky.
Mike White, some love on the streets for Mike White. I remember talking to Scott McLuhan during the summer, and he mentioned Mike White's name to me. Mike White has a big arm. Now, their backup, Cooper Rush, is the exact opposite. He's a cerebral guy, an anticipation guy. Mike White, I don't think always anticipates great, and he doesn't always get it out on time. But when he does, he's got a cannon. He has got a great arm. He's got the traits, height, and he's got size. He's got a big arm.
He came from what, South Florida?
South Florida. Yeah.
He came from South Florida, so there we see the report card. B's, accuracy, arm strength, C+ mobility, leadership is a B. His production fell off a little bit when he lost his coach, Jeff Brom.
And Taywan Taylor.
Abandoned him when he went to Purdue, so he was left. Yeah, he abandoned him.
Abandoned?
He abandoned him. He went
now he's salty.
He abandoned him and left him as a hilltopper. He went to Purdue.
Listen, man,
and he had to play without him.
Purdue football's got to get back.
Yeah, I mean, but he was Western Kentucky, so the quarterback was without a coach, and so he struggled a little bit his senior season.